Welcome! I want to do a really quick video to show you how to read a knitting pattern if you're a beginner. So this is not a video if you already know how to read a knitting pattern. Let's just dive straight in. I'm using my diagonally jumper knitting pattern. Heads up, do not share other people's copyright content without permission. Do not post patterns online, and I would also encourage everyone to not share their patterns with family and friends. Everyone should buy a copy each to support the designer. Okay, let's dive in. The first thing you will see in the pattern is all this information that you need. For instance, we have recommended needles, yarn options, size. The first thing you need to figure out is what size to knit. For instance, say you're knitting a size medium. How do you figure out what size you knit? You check the bust measurement. So, say you're usually medium. Now double check your bust measurement. Is it 80, 90, 100? Which is the closest to? And figure out what bracket it is in. For instance, you fit this bracket. That means extra small, small, medium, you are knitting a medium. So for all the information you will receive throughout the pattern, figure out what bracket you are following the instructions for, and always follow that bracket. The others, don't worry about them. So medium, medium, medium. Let's go down to the pattern. Extra small, small, medium. Don't care about any of the other brackets. Once you have that down, you need to figure out your yarn. So to figure out what yarn you can use, you need to check your gauge. Your gauge is how many stitches per 10 centimeters of knitted fabric. If you meet gauge, so in this instance, if you have 18 stitches per 10 centimeters, then you will get these measurements. If you are off, your garment will turn out smaller or larger. Say for instance, you get 22 stitches per 10 centimeters. That means you're using 4 extra stitches of the ones you have cast on per 10 centimeters, which means it will be smaller because you're using up more stitches to create the same amount of centimeters. So it's important to check your gauge. If your gauge is tighter and you get more stitches, then you can try going up a needle size. If you have less stitches, you can try going down. Now, bear in mind, as a beginner knitter, it's very common to have a tighter gauge than once you get more experience, just based on how you hold your needles and how tightly you hold your yarn over your finger. That will change. There's nothing wrong with that, just bear in mind. It will change as you gain more experience. Let's move on to yarn. These are yarn options. That does not mean you have to use these, but you can. This is one option and this is another option. These are both DK weight yarns. Yarn is categorized by weight. So you have lace weight, fingering weight, sport weight, DK weight, worsted, Aran, chunky. There are many different weights, and that just explains how many meters does this yarn have per 50 or 100 grams. So a chunky weight will have fewer meters and a lace weight will have more. This is a DK weight pattern, so you can use pretty much any DK weight yarn that you want. Just check your gauge and adjust accordingly. Let's look at quantity. What's important to remember when picking out your quantity of yarn is how many meters does your yarn have in comparison to the yarn in the pattern, because it being a DK weight pattern doesn't automatically mean they have the same amount of meters. So it's not really the grams that you're going for, you need to calculate the meters. For instance, Elder, which is one of my hand-dyed yarns, per 100 grams has 225 meters. If you use another yarn that only has 200 meters per 100 grams, then you might need an extra skein. So you need to calculate your yardage, not your grams. So figure out how many meters is, we were doing medium, 350 grams of Elder, and compare that to how many meters does the yarn you want have, and then adjust accordingly in regards to quantity. Now, I think you are good to go. These are the basics of how you read the pattern, how you read this information, which I know can be very overwhelming. When you start reading, I would look at the abbreviations which are usually included. There might be some tutorials listed in the pattern, and also don't be overwhelmed. Take it one step at a time, maybe read just a bit ahead, but don't freak out because you don't understand what's going to happen in 5 pages, because it's not relevant right now. Take it one step at a time, you'll get through it. YouTube is a wonderful resource, and remember, you can always message or email the designer. Good luck, enjoy your knitting. I hope this might have been a bit of help for a couple of you. Bye!